Good afternoon. I'm going to talk about something that is the result of a period of several months and several years, I would say, from the moment we started to talk about this and to the moment we started to deploy it. Some FOSDEMs ago, we started to talk to some people of the Open Document Foundation about having a development dashboard for LibreOffice and all the other projects around the Open Document Foundation umbrella. And basically, we're a company that are producing free software for doing this kind of analysis. I'm going to present it later. So at some point, we reached an agreement and we deployed the first version of the dashboard, which is now it's online, and I'm going to tell you the URL right now. So there are two talks now by myself. One is this one, which is basically for explaining how the dashboard works. And the second one is probably more interesting because it's about how how the dashboard is done internally and how you can query directly all the data. Because right now we have for 3 data sources of your development, we have all the information stored into a nice Elasticsearch database that can be queried in any way you may want. So that means that probably some of the metrics that some of you could be interested in having are only a couple of Elasticsearch queries away from you. So let's go to the real thing. First of all, I'm going to very briefly talk about some context about myself and the company, and then I'm going to talk about the dashboard. And I'm going to spend the first 20 minutes talking about the dashboard. So the dashboard is online, as I said. Well, let me go and briefly show me. That's myself, even when it doesn't look like. I'm both at the university and at the company, so I've been working in software metrics for a while. But my approach to software metrics is not looking at the source code, but looking at the activity and the processes. That's what the dashboard is about. So some time ago, we decided to start a company, and the company is basically producing and using only free software. And that's what we use to deploy the dashboard. And the dashboard is here. So here you have the link. You can test the thing live if you want. And if you try it with a phone, it doesn't render well, but try it with a tablet or with a laptop. It's dashboard.documentfoundation.org. So it was updated like yesterday, so all the information, I guess it's pretty up to date. And there are several views for the information. First of all, we have like 3 rows in the main entry point, which each one corresponds to one of the data sources. You have Git, you have Git, and you have Bacilla. And then on the left, you have numbers, which are summaries of what's happening in the project right now. And then you have 2 columns. This is about activity. So that's commits, code reviews, or tickets. And this is about persons. So that's authors of commits. That's people starting code review processes. And this is people opening tickets. And then you have some summaries on the right. The affiliation information is probably not very accurate yet, but still you can have an idea. So we use some heuristics based on the email address, which means that if you are using a Gmail address, for instance, you are in the unknown part. If you are using a corporate email address, usually you are in the part of the pie. Let's go to the real thing, which is over here. Okay, nice. As I said, this is the main overview of the project, and first of all, everything is actionable. So you can click and filter and move things. So for instance, you can rearrange the icons somehow. You can remove one of them if you don't want to see it. You can also enlarge them if you want to make more clearly what's happening and stuff like that. And of course, if you don't save, anything happens for the next user, and you cannot save. So no problem for that. You can filter and stuff. So let me go to the Git panel, and I'm going to show you how to use it very briefly. So this thing that you see on the top are filters, so those red boxes. So we have 2 default filters for filtering out empty commits, I mean those commits that don't touch any file, and bots. For bots, we have some heuristics. I don't know how good they are for this dashboard, but basically they can be amended with manual effort. In any case, filters can be actioned on. You can just click here, and basically it removes the filter, which means that now the information you see once the thing is done is basically everything like it was before, but without the filter. So I'm going to activate it again. And you can filter by organization, so that if you want to have a look at what Red Hat is doing in these repositories, you can very easily go there, click, and filter. And now the thing is the same, but now for Red Hat activity. And you can also, of course, come to any other of the parts, like I want to filter on a specific repositories, for instance this one, and I want to check specifically what's happening. And well, this is the information. For some of the things there is nothing. Every time you click on something, a new filter appears, and filters can be removed just by clicking on the trash can, which I'm doing right now. Okay, so this is again the whole activity for the repository. Coming back to what's in the Git repository, you have information about the different authors. So probably this is a bot that should be filtered. You have organizations over time, where you can have a look at the commit activity over time and look at who is performing those commits by affiliation. This is just curious, because you know that in Git you have the local time of the committer, and all that depends on how well configured the laptop of the developer is, but otherwise, well, this is basically the American West Coast, this is the East Coast, and Latin America, this is Europe and Africa, this is Asia, this is Australia, and so on. So you can get first a rough idea of where your developers are. Of course, if people have UTC 0 in the laptop because they travel a lot, well, they are here. That's why this pic here. In any case, the information for Git is not, let's say, that interesting, because in many cases you already have it. But if you come to Gerrit, the information starts to be probably a bit more interesting. This is basically the number of code reviews over time. It seems that you started to use Gerrit intensively at some point in last year. So we can filter out the rest of the time. So on the top right, you have a date filter. So I'm going to get with only with the staff from the last year. And that's fair enough. Okay. Now you can see the code reviews, the code review information as you have it now. And if you look at this one, it is by status. If you want to learn what status they are, here you have new, abandoned, and merge. So you have some new down here. So you have some abandoned all over the place, and most of them are merged. That's a number of code reviews by month. Of course, you can again click, and you can maybe focus on the currently open, new code reviews, and you can see how you have new code reviews from last year, but most of them are well, pretty recent, from the last, I don't know, 3 to 6 months. I'm going to remove that one. Then you can, of course, do the same for repositories, so that you are interested in what's happening in the dictionaries repository, for instance. This is a code review activity there. And again, you can come down and see a bit more detailed information, like the number of patch sets per change set. So how many times developers have to resubmit until they get accepted. Those are numbers that start to give you an idea about how efficient the process is, because if you have a lot of cycles, that basically means that, well, the new versions that developers are sending are not good enough. They have to review it again. They have to be asked again for a new version, and that's not much efficient. You can filter by persons, and you can filter again by organizations. I'm going to skip some of the menu entries for lack of time, but you can go later. Let me check Gerrit backlog, because it's probably the most interesting one for developers. This is the current backlog of Gerrit issues that you have right now. So to begin with, you can look at the time structure of those. So this is time, and this is the number of new change sets. Change sets in the new state. So as usual, most of them are recent, but the year starts here. So you can see, this is by week now, so you can see how you still have some that are 2 to 3 months old, and you have some that are very old. In many cases, you may be interested in learning which ones they are, to go and look at them. That's what you have on the left. So on the left, you can go and say, okay, I have this backlog, and I want to learn what's happening with this specific. For instance, this has been sitting here since March last year. So you can go and click and go directly to Gerrit and see what's happening with this one, and maybe deciding to, I don't know, close or abandon it or something. So this is probably interesting stuff for learning per repository. what kind of, let's say, jobs you still have pending from the code review point of view. Of course, you can also filter by who is submitting or which organization is submitting or stuff like that, so that you can zero on the kind of information you may want. For issues, I mean for Baxilla, we have similar information. Here you have all the tickets in the current state. And I'm going to remove the legend so that you can see it better, and I'm going to enlarge it a bit. With Baxilla, we have some trouble with data retrieval, which means that the data is updated only up to November. But still, you can get the idea of how you can see the structure of all the tickets right now, how many of them were closed, where you have a ticket sitting for a long time in such and such state, and so on. Again, you can see the same by organizations, projects, submitters, and staff.